Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back. So you saw the title of this video, and yes, we're having this discussion because oftentimes whenever I mention any sort of criticism towards the Pokemon franchise, I will get accusations thrown around like I'm someone who just hates Pokemon because it's popular to hate on Pokemon, or I never liked Pokemon to begin with and I'm just trying to push some sort of anti-Pokemon narrative, or that I'm just flat out a hater that's clinging to nostalgia. Whichever way you slice it, it's clear that criticizing the Pokemon franchise is something that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because the fact of the matter is that I am someone who has criticized many games regardless of what's quote-unquote popular. I've said on multiple occasions that Breath of the Wild is my least favorite 3D Zelda game. I don't think that Pokemon Black and White are one of the best Pokemon games in the franchise, which seems to be a popular notion nowadays. And frankly, if you watch my Pokemon tier list video, you'll see where I put them in. I'm sure that opinion was decisive in that I just think the games are decent rather than amazing or terrible. I honestly don't really care if people get upset by my opinions on things. Anyways, a common sentiment is that I've been very negative towards Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and just modern Pokemon games in general, and while I will not deny the fact that I have been very apathetic towards recent Pokemon games, this does not come from a hatred towards the franchise, but rather the feeling of a minimalistic approach that has been taken to making Pokemon games ever since the transition to the Nintendo Switch, and even arguably with the release of Ultra Sun and Moon, which in my opinion did not warrant two separate versions, especially considering it had less changes than a third version like Platinum did. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, while a lot of people do enjoy these games, I don't get the hype behind them, especially since Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green featured more content than these games and were on Game Boy Advance. I mean, sure, Let's Go looks pretty, but to me it doesn't even feel like an evolution to Pokemon Yellow, but instead something that was put together in order to capitalize on Pokemon Go fans. Pokemon Sword and Shield didn't really feature any content that a 3DS game wouldn't have featured already. It reused tons of animations, and on top of that, cut the national dex, which while a lot of people might not care about that, it just adds salt to the wound because they acted like this game was a step up. That's why they had to do it, but it really wasn't. Pokemon BDSP were objectively worse games than Platinum, and while people might argue that they're remakes of Diamond and Pearl, I would clap back and say that Heart Gold and Soul Silver are better games than Crystal, and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, while not including the Battle Frontier, which I do think was a missed opportunity, add a lot of Emerald content and make it a game that you could argue is better than Emerald. I can think of no reason to buy BDSP when even basic features from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl have either been gutted or removed. The Underground doesn't have bases anymore, contests are one-string Guitar Hero, etc. Now, next is Legends Arceus, which I wouldn't really consider a mainline game just because it doesn't feature any sort of PvP or trading or a lot of what comes with conventional Pokemon titles. However, I actually really enjoyed this game, and if I was pushing this narrative that Pokemon is bad and other monster taming games are good, then I would have had every reason to just crap on this game and argue that you should look forward to Kindred Fates instead. I'm pretty sure a PokeTuber that you guys know actually did do that, and I could have easily done so too if I wasn't an honest person. I don't think Legends was the perfect Pokemon game. In my opinion, there are some things that could have made it even better, but I do have to say, regardless of the performance and graphical limitations, it was honestly the first time in a while, and on the Nintendo Switch, that I was actually looking forward to going home and playing a Pokemon game. The story was fun, the characters were pretty memorable, and despite the game having what seemed to be a pretty quick development cycle, it felt like there was a lot of heart put into it. Then we had Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I've said multiple times, I actually did enjoy playing this game, and I would hands down stand behind the fact that I do think it's more fun than any other Switch Pokemon game besides Pokemon Legends. I just don't believe that the amount of bugs and glitches and performance issues are justified. Now, yes, of course, some people's experiences are going to differ. However, when you have a game that's this buggy and is missing some really crucial features that, in my opinion, keep it a step back from what it could have been, I'm not just going to ignore that because I enjoyed the game. I think the game should have had level scaling that would have made it a lot better. I think the game's Elite Four music should have worked properly the first time I played it. I think the game should have featured some actual post-game content besides finding stakes all over the place. I think the main campaign should have been longer. They should have explored the characters more, etc. Do I think Scarlet and Violet are the worst games ever? No, I did enjoy these games. I don't know why people think I hate the Pokemon franchise just because I'm willing to actually criticize it as someone who's been playing it since the beginning. But honestly, in recent times, it's more popular to bash on the early generations of Pokemon and try to compare them to the current gen 20 years later and use the shortcomings of games like Red and Blue and Gold and Silver as fuel to push the narrative that Pokemon is fine now and we're just nostalgic. The problem with nostalgia is it it actually works on both sides, because a lot of people defending Scarlet and Violet might also be nostalgic about Pokemon in general and want to fight for Pokemon on behalf of that nostalgia. So that as an argument saying, oh, well, you just don't like the new games because you're nostalgic, you could turn that right around on somebody. So it's not really a good point to make. It's not just Pokemon too. Like, I see a lot of people talk down to me for not enjoying Dragon Ball Super, which I personally did not like as a series besides a few moments. And again, people will throw nostalgia at me, but I didn't start watching Dragon Ball till I was 20. Sure, I saw a couple episodes of Z when I was a kid, but as a kid, I actually didn't even like it. So it's clear that people just use nostalgia as an argument in order to deflect criticism of any franchise that has some age behind it. Anyways, do I hate Pokemon? No, absolutely not. I love the Pokemon franchise. It's why I even started YouTube back when Pokemon X and Y was on the horizon. I used to cover like Coral leaks and stuff like that. Most of the videos are unlisted now, but my love for Pokemon and yearning for something more akin to the quality games we saw, like with Platinum, Black and White 2, Emerald, even Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which are more recent. That's what made me interested in monster taming games to begin with. I never knew about all these monster taming games before I started looking, and that's a whole part of my channel. It's not to say, oh, Pokemon sucks now, you should play these games. It's to say, hey, if you're looking for something different and maybe you feel like you're not getting what you want from Pokemon games, there are still other options. And hell, if you enjoy modern Pokemon and still want even more monster taming to supplement your Pokemon fix, you have that too. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I wanted to sort of get this off my chest because as my channel becomes bigger, I get more and more people that become cynical towards my thoughts and opinions. If you're wondering why I hold Pokemon to a higher standard than a solo indie dev game, for example, I think it's pretty obvious as to why. So if you think I'm harsher on Pokemon than I am to other games that may be buggy, but were created by a small group of people, it's the same reason why I'm not as harsh on Pokemon Red and Blue and their bugs as I would be towards Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when you're comparing the current reach of the Pokemon company versus when there was like 6 people working there. But yeah, I think I covered everything. If you guys have anything else you want to add, if there's anything else you want to get off your chest about my opinions towards Pokemon, definitely let me know in the comment section. I guess maybe I might see some arguments about how I shouldn't talk about it if I have nothing good to say. However, that whole saying about don't speak unless it's something nice is kind of trash in my opinion, because all that does is allow people to avoid criticism, which I'm not going to hold off on if I deem necessary. I know it's not really the point of the saying, it's more so just to not be mean unnecessarily, but you get what I'm saying. I'm kind of rambling at this point. But anyways, if you do want to stay up to date on monster taming games and you want to watch someone that's really passionate about the videos they make, definitely subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every single day on top of my 50-hour work week, which I have to commute 3 hours a day minimum to, and I got a family and other stuff like that. So if you're into that, definitely consider joining the community. Just want to say special thanks to my patrons, especially Jim Hamilton, Dro Ghost, Dark Persona, Exodus, and Candy Marunci, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.